hair and his beard is on fire. All right, so please give a fantastic round of applause for Timo.
What's up?
Hi.
Hello, hello.
So we've just seen the incredible video that was on, but just in case people don't really know your story, can you share what you do, who you are, how you got to where you are now?
Sweet. All right, so cool. So my name's Armoo, Timo. About 5.5 years ago, I started a company called FanBytes. After I'd been involved in the social space for a while, and FanBytes is really a right product at the right time, right market, and we built it to help brands to reach a young audience using like social influencers, and it worked pretty well. We grew it from me in my second year of university, grew it to a team of 75 people working with brands like Nike, Samsung, McDonald's, Deliveroo. Scaled it pretty fast, and then last year the company got bought by a company called Brain Labs in an 8-figure deal. So the deal was about tens of millions of pounds, basically. Was the deal. So yeah, like, it was a very fun ride from basically not knowing much about business, tinkering around with businesses, doing businesses before which kind of flopped, kind of failed, kind of flopped, kind of failed, and then actually having one which really succeeded beyond anything that I thought was possible. So that was cool.
Yeah, that's so impressive. And I want to talk about, the kind of flop moments. So when you were at your lowest, how did you overcome it, and what was the thing that, got you through it? And
yeah. So there were a lot of low moments with FanBytes. But also, they were only low because in that moment, I was like, oh my God, this is quite stressful. But actually, when I look back, it wasn't really that low. So there are a few examples. I mean, one, so when we started off, we're very focused on helping brands to reach a young audience and using Snapchat, right? And then one day we wake up and then we realize that the algorithm change has just happened on Snapchat, which means basically like the views of all our influencers had like halved. And then I remember waking up that day and I seen the article in TechCrunch and I was like, oh yeah, cool. And then I looked at our data and I was like, oh shit, like this is serious. But then I was stressed, but then it turns out that actually we just figured out how to sort it. Another one, turns out that I only knew this after the fact, but we basically ran out of money. And the only way we're able to pay was because my CTO in October had basically won a business plan competition from Nottingham where he'd been given 20 grand. And basically at the end of the year, if we hadn't had that 20 grand, we would not have been able to pay our staff. But like when I had all these moments, I used to look to my co-founder and go, this would be a fun story to tell in 6 months. Like I think that I'd always had that kind of approach of, well, we're not gonna die, and we're not and also there was a thing that I told a lot of my team members anytime there were any issues. Oh man, there's a client has just left us, and I'd always say, we are not saving people's lives here. Like, we build software to help people market on social media. Like, we help McDonald's sell more fries. We're not doing anything that grandiose. And so that gave me a lot of perspective as to like what actually really matters and how low the lows actually really are.
Yeah, and here you are turning them into a lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
And so in terms of those mistakes, do you think that they were unique to you and your journey, or do you see that in a lot of founders that you work with? And what advice would you give them? Is it looking at things from a different perspective, or is it do as I say, not as I do?
Do you know what? I've actually realized, I think about 80% of mistakes are made by all founders, right? So after selling the company, I've invested now in about 15 different companies. And basically, I've come to just have a thesis as to the stuff that works and the stuff that does not work. So for example, one of the big things that doesn't work for a lot of entrepreneurs is like they're not prepared to say no at the beginning to people who are not their target customers. I can't tell you the like number of times I have a conversation with someone and it's like, all right, who's your customer? Everybody. Okay. Who is your customer? Mums. Okay. Like, tell me more. Like, be a bit more specific. And like, there's a story I've said before, but in FanBytes, in our second year, we reached 1 million in revenue. And the only way that we did that was that we solely focused on mobile apps, right? So a big problem a lot of founders and entrepreneurs make is that they just try and boil the ocean too much. And probably the second one is more of a problem which comes from when you come from like the background that I came from, right? Like I grew up like 4th floor, council estate, Oaken Road. And it was like, I had a mental ceiling as to what was actually possible. So a really funny story. When we sold the company last year, we're doing about 13 million in revenue. But we got our first ever 6-figure contract in our 3rd year. And it's like, we could have got in our 1st year. We could have got in our 2nd year. But like mentally, I was almost a bit squeamish about asking for the money. And I find out with so many entrepreneurs here, it's like there's almost this sense of who am I to ask for the big bucks? Who am I to be that person? And I always tell them, almost turn into a bit of a therapist. It's like, well, you are that guy. That's the reason why you should ask for it, right? Or you are that girl. Like someone's got to spend that money or someone's got to get that money. So why not you? And I see that change a lot in a lot of founders where you almost have to mentally break through that ceiling and then you go, right, now it's time to play for the big boys. That was a change I definitely had to go through.
Yeah. And I'm wondering about other changes that you had to go through. Knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in your journey? Or what would your perfect journey look like?
So after we sold the company, I have this notes on my phone. It's basically like things that I messed up on, right? And basically I'm on like number 120 or something like that. It's just bare things that I messed up on. It's like so many things. And it's so funny, right? Because like people see the headline. It's like, okay, started the company at 21, sold it at 27, tens of millions. They're like, well, everything was really fine. But there was so many things. So I'll pick like 3. Number one, so we got the company up to like 75 people. And to be honest, I think after 40 people, I kind of became a bit useless. I should have hired like someone to actively run the business because basically like up to 40 people, everything was just good vibes. Like I was the rainmaker. I was the guy getting everyone hyped. I was like, oh, let's try this. Let's try that, right? After 40 people, well, say you're 50 people. And you're like, okay, I've got this new project. I've got this new idea. And everyone's looking at you like, bruh, we have a different thing. You said a different thing last week. Now you're saying this new thing, right? So I think that I should have hired a CEO maybe then. The second thing is I should have known more. And I kind of realized this at the end. But I should have known more what business FanBytes was truly in. So here's what I mean by that. When we came to sell the business, they were measuring us on revenue and profit and blah, blah, blah. But the big thing was always like, how many retainers do you have, right? And probably up until a 4th year, all I did in FanBytes was like, let's just get new customers. Like, I was very excited when we won a new customer, but I wasn't that excited when we retained a customer because okay, yeah, I'm going to get them to spend some more. When what I should have done was maybe like, reverse engineered the process and be like, oh, actually, this business is like a client service business and focus on that. Like, it doesn't matter if you have 300 customers, actually just have 100 customers and they're just going to spend more and more with you. And then probably the final thing was realizing that like most of the things I was trying to do had been done by someone else. And my job was basically to learn how they did it and then just do it, right? Like, I often say this and people think that I'm lying, but like, I have never had an original idea in my entire life, like ever, right? I just see things that work and then I go, oh yeah, this sounds good. We should do it, right? But it's not something, I think for so many, budding entrepreneurs, founders, we kind of like fall victim to this whole thing of like, you should have the great idea, or you should be the person who's in your room, then you come out and suddenly you have this brainstorm thing. And it's like, that's just rubbish. Like, that's just things that are said in books to sell the books, right? But in actuality, it's like most of the things you're trying to do has been done by someone else. Go study the game and then do that. And then that's the way they won, really.
Yeah, I almost want you to like read the 120 that you because that is so insightful.
There are so many. Maybe I'll turn to a book. Like, there's a few people who've been asking me to write a book. I've been asked several times to write a book, and I say, can the book just be 120 pages? And each page is just, this is what I messed up on. Next page, this was the other thing that I messed up on. But yeah, maybe that'll be the plan.
Yeah, I mean, let's make it happen.
There you go. Okay.
So, in terms of your personal traits and your personal attributes, because being a founder and being an entrepreneur is like having a lot of resilience.
Yeah.
What else helped you to go through this journey?
So before I started FanBytes, I'd actually built and sold a small company before it. So at 17, I started a company called Entrepreneur Express, and it was just like an online blog. And basically that company got sold within about 11 months of starting it. That got sold, not for the same amount of FanBytes, but for like 110 grand, right? And at 17, I started something, and within 11 months, sold for 110 grand. I'm like, oh my God, like I am a magician, basically, right? Like, I can just think of stuff, and then it can happen, and then someone pays me. I'm like, oh my God, like this is the closest thing to magic, right? And I think that really changed my perspective. So to the question, I think what helped me was almost saying to myself, like, I am the type of person who can do this sort of thing. And so all I need to do is like play it on a bigger level. And for most people I speak to, whether they're entrepreneurs, students, aspiring entrepreneurs, I always say like, try and look for previous evidence of you having done something good. Because if you have previous evidence of you having done something good, then you have that almost like self-belief that you are the type of person who can do good things. There's something that there's a thing that I looked at, I think this was in like the final few months of FanBytes, where I was just looking at the different team members, and I realized the people who did incredibly well were those who had like a past evidence of being good at something else. It could be they were the prefect. It could be they were good at sports. It could be they were the head of the chess team or something, right? But like they had something in their mind which said, I have the capacity to be good at things. And so therefore they were just good at wherever their job was. And I think like that, yes, it's like hard work and resilience and all that stuff. But I think like that was quite a big marker of it. There's also actually another point here. I said this to a few of my friends, and some of them were like, nah. And then some of them were like, well, yeah, obviously. I don't think I worked extremely hard to get where I am now. Okay. Like, yes, I worked hard and blah, blah. But like, people say, oh man, work hard. Hard work is the secret, all that crap, right? Like, I think it's more important to figure out what kind of market you're in and be in a market that's like going up. And then you just need to ride the wave. So like for FanBytes, there's a number of companies in the influencer space that got bought. And all you had to do was basically be in like the top 5, right? So we got bought recently, some other company called Goat got bought, Jungle got bought. Like quite a few companies got bought for like tens of millions because they just focus on the right market. So I say to a lot of entrepreneurs, like, yes, it's important to work hard, but like it's more important to figure out what industry you're in and what model you're in, what like business model you're in, because that's actually going to be a greater determinant of whether you're able to achieve like wild success or just like okay success.
Yeah. And so your message is work smart, not hard. But then when you got to the point of selling, surely that was the point where you were, how did you feel and how did the deal come about? Because was that where you were like, actually now it's time to work hard?
No, not really. Huh? If you ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, man. Like, we got approached, and I've said this story a few times, but I'll be quick with it, which is, so in October 2021, we got approached by like 3 different companies within about 6 weeks who were looking for strategic partnerships, right? That's another hack, by the way. If some large company reaches out to you for strategic partnerships, they're basically saying, yo, we want to buy you, right? But then I was like, oh, okay, this is the time that the market is going to go for consolidation. And so we then began a process where we hired a bank, and the bank is basically the person who like runs the whole process for you. So bank did that, and we got 4 people wanting to buy the company. We picked 3, and then 3 of them put in letters of intent, and then we basically decided the right person. How did it feel? A lot of people talk about business being your baby, right? And I've never agreed with that, because the way I see it is twofold. Number one, if the business is your baby at some point has to grow up, right? And like they have to leave to go to uni, right? And so your business exit is basically like your business growing up and going to uni, right? So it kind of baffles me when people go, it's my baby, I'm not gonna let go of it. I'm like, well, okay, fair enough. That's you, but that's not me. And then I think the second thing is also, I think I was very objective about business. And I think also since the acquisition, I've become very objective about money in general. I'm just like, oh, this is a good tool for other people to help other people. And so in terms of the business offering or the business exit, I was pretty nonchalant about it, because the whole aim when I started the company, I said, by the time I am 30, to be honest, I guess I'll say it here, but right, like, so my whole thing was, by the time I'm 30, I want to make enough money that I never have to think about money ever again. And if I do have kids, they will never have to think about it ever again, right? And the exit made that possible. And so I was like, okay, thank you. And so for me, it was like, well, this exit is going to help me achieve the thing that I said. So why feel emotional about it? Just like get on with it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I mean, it helped that it was 8 figures as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, it is categorically true that if it was less and did not tick the box of meaning I don't have to care about money ever again, I would not have done the deal, right? And I was very realistic about the outcome of this business. Some people were like, oh, they run a cake factory and then they say, I want the business to go public. And it's like, name me 2 cake factories that are public, right? Like, so having a bit more of a realistic understanding of what an acquisition is was the way I did it.
That's really interesting. So I want to go back to the beginning. And so you actually studied computing at Warwick. What was the moment that you were like, actually, I want to start my entrepreneurial journey? Computing isn't necessarily for me.
So as I mentioned, like before I went to uni, I had started and sold a company before. So that had like given me the whole entrepreneurial bug. Computer science was solely because, so when I went to Warwick, the first thing I actually studied was philosophy. I don't know why I did that, but then I studied computer science because I was like, I want to learn something that would be useful to the industry and useful to the marketplace. And so that was when I then switched to computer science. And then in my second year, I was like, okay, this influencer thing is on the rise. I think I have the right set of skills which can be applied to it. And if I put it around like helping a Gen Z audience, I think I can build a competitive advantage. And then probably the last thing on that is, how do I say this in the nicest way possible? I kind of looked at the industry and I went, I reckon I could beat these guys. Like, people in like the social media industry were just a bit meh, right? And I was like, well, I reckon with superior sales, superior marketing, superior positioning, we can beat them.
And you did.
And you did, yeah, exactly.
And final question for me. So on your LinkedIn, you talk about different measures of success. So like having a fridge that isn't white, having a dishwasher, which I actually had to call my dad about.
That's so funny.
We got a dishwasher 2 years ago, and then I called him and he was like, yeah, that's when I got my promotion. So you're right about that. What funny. Is the one item that you own that, you know, has cemented that you've been successful or, you know, you're finally doing what you want to do?
So, just to answer that, I think the audience needs some context. I think the audience needs some context. So basically, was it last week that I posted it? Basically, I said like, because of where I grew up, there were like so many weird things that when I went to my friends' homes, I'd see them and I'd go, oh, like that person's caked up, right? And it'd be like having a dishwasher. It's like, whoa, like you have hit, you know, having an air fryer. I was like, yo, you have hit the, you know, you've hit the big time. What's the other one? It was like having a garden. I was like, oh my God, like you are Bill Gates basically, right? And I think, and it's funny because when I, you know, quote unquote, when like FanBytes was becoming successful, I then started to like accumulate these sort of things. So I got very excited having a dishwasher in my house. Oh man, I've made it, you know. But anyway, now, so there's probably three things. One is I have a private chef, so that's nice. I have a dedicated cleaner for my house. That's nice. So like, surely works for me. And then a farm. Yeah. So I bought a farm in Oxford. It's like a 40-acre farm in Oxford. I bought that last year. Yeah, like sometime in November. So like, that's kind of cool to say they have a farm. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, those are three things. Yeah. So a chef, driver, a chef, a cleaner, and a farm.
The driver's next.
The driver's next. Hopefully driver next, because I currently still can't drive, so. Which is so funny, isn't it? Yeah.
You'll learn soon.
We'll see.
Well, thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for the questions. Sweet. Cool.
Okay, as they...
Oh, fun fact. Sorry, just a fun fact.
You took me for dinner, so how?
Yeah. David was the first person who knew about the company acquisition.
You lot ain't ready.
FanBytes.
You lot ain't ready.
It's kind of cool. So we go back.
Yes. See that? See, you ain't ready.